Welcome back to the Dave Gold Evolve podcast, where industry leaders in the spiritual, dating, and business world help you truly evolve your life. Now, welcome to your host, Dave Gold.
All right, guys, we're back with my favorite type of podcast, the spontaneous one. On this episode, we've got Harris Hajifedic. You're going to have to pronounce me with that. You're going to have to help me with that pronunciation. But Harris is a guide for men and women who, through teaching, coaching, and intuition, helps them to open up to their core, their source, and their essence. So it's great to connect with you, Harris. Where are you in the world today?
I'm in Berlin, Germany, and it's great connecting with you too. I just want to say, first of all, thank you for just allowing this connection and this spontaneous moment to happen. I'm also really curious what's going on for you and where do you consider yourself to be in your journey and what's just relevant as well within your inner world as in the world of, circumstances, appearances, and forms. Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. So this is going to be one of the most pure interviews that I've done, throwing out the script, no questions ahead of time. So we're just going to be vulnerably opening up to each other, learning about each other, and to the listeners, you guys can see what happens when a connection takes place. So I guess the way that I usually start these interviews is to learn a little bit about your journey, where you grew up, what happened in your past, and how you've gotten to the place where you are today, where you're creating impact in the world.
Wow, it's a big question. I suppose, I was born in Bosnia and I grew up in Holland for a majority of my life. So I moved there as when I was a kid. And let's see, what has led me to get to this point where I'm at? Were a few things. I suppose we can say two things. I remember as I was growing up as a teenager and going on to my 20s, especially, what was really strong in my experience is that there was an intuitive sense that something was just missing in life. And this, I remember being in school, for example, and just having this intuitive knowing, like, this cannot be it. I felt like I was being imposed on a, template of how life should be lived, and, with these few options and structures, that were put in place that I can just choose from, like this kind of study, and then that would lead to this kind of job with, that kind of lifestyle, and that it felt kind of
Restricting?
It felt restricting. It didn't feel true. There was something in me knowing somehow that no, something else must be possible. Like, look at us here on this amazing planet, in this infinite universe, in this mystery of life, and then this is it, going from 9 to 5, and then worrying about all kinds of things and making sure to get by, and
what was your path?
Enjoying yourself in the weekend and in holidays, and then
what were you meant to do? Were you meant to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer?
No, that was not a thing that was playing out in my life. I was very clear from pretty early age that I was going to go help people, somehow make their lives feel lighter, more healthy. And so in my 20s, I was into the mental health care. So I was having some internships and jobs within the mental health care branch. So working with people who are going to therapies, like adult people who are having a lot of mental health issues, and but also parents who were struggling with their kids and just some distorted family structures. So I was doing that as well. And at some point, there was I came to a point where I was sort of it was draining me energetically. Um, we can say it was that work. It was kind of draining me, but at the same time, it was just also showing me how I was not yet like opened up to my fuller potential, or was not yet energetically in balance and emotionally in balance to take on that not just that work, but just like to live up to my purpose. And so it was a great catalyzer in that way to really, yeah, to sort of propel me into searching deeper, into searching for what's like, who am I, and what, like the question of what am I here to do, what's my purpose in life, what do I really want, and what kind of life and what kind of work is in true resonance with who I know myself to be on a deeper level. And so this then propelled me into searching into the more, let's say, alternative or holistic pathways, like meditation, who is now much less looked at as something alternative. It's getting pretty mainstream. But at that time, I remember it was way less mainstream than it is now.
When was
this? Was about, I know, like 10 years ago or something, maybe more. Yeah. But also in my world, like I wasn't open for it at that time. Like I had a lot of resistance when something about meditation or about yoga was supposed. I would just I would just label it as just some weird hippie stuff that's not gonna get anything, done in the world. Like, no, just give me the real deal, something real, But yeah, at some point also, what just the mainstream ways of healing practices sort of exhausted themselves. Like I realized that for me, the effect that they have was very limited and for a very short time. And I noticed the same patterns of the mind structure, the identity structure, just coming back just in different ways. But I saw it was the same pattern, and I just felt really frustrated and stuck, that it was, even though I was moving in my life, I was having more fun, I was living in another place, I was living in Berlin, I was having another job, no stress from something external, but still something wasn't complete, something wasn't really in peace, and something was there was something, there was sense of satisfaction just missing that I clearly could not get from anything external. And it became clear that I was not going to get it from anything external, because I got the things that I thought I need in order to feel just amazing, but it was not sustainable. And so when this became clear to me, I knew I had to somehow search within. And so then I opened up to meditation. I went to some shamanic ceremonies, which were really, really powerful, with medicine plants. That was one of the first glimpses and awakening moments into, well, I don't know, there are many words you can call it, the God state, or, just seeing infinity, just seeing the illusion of the identity structures, like being really clear, and just like really seeing for myself that I am actually free from our thinking and feeling. I suppose that's the best way to describe it to 3D kind of human mind is just to realize that we exist independently from our thoughts and feelings. I suppose, I mean, that's really it. And to see this for yourself and noticing this space and vastness that then one awakens to, and to notice like, wow, I can really be who I am, and there's really nothing in the way for me to, you know, live how I want to live and create what I want to create. And and just having few glimpses of that was enough to only desire that, or predominantly just desire that, and build my life around it in such a way that that I'm anchoring and centering more into this space or into this awareness, expand that deeper and embody that deeper and deeper. And well, maybe I'm sure if you've experienced something similar, which I kind of intuit you did, you know how then. But just like everything else in life, you know, when we open up to something, then somehow we also attract all kinds of circumstances that are supporting and are that are just supporting of that new reality. You know, just meeting the right people, getting to the right courses, trainings, and so on.
For me, I would say it's accepting the devastation.
Accepting the devastation. Can you elaborate on that?
Loving the destruction. And it, to many, seems impossible, out of their realm of possibility, to love when the walls are crumbling down around you. What you want, you're not getting. What you had is now gone. What you thought was love or family or success has been destroyed. Your material belongings, they might have been taken. Your home doesn't feel so safe anymore. And what are you left with? Yourself. And in those moments, that's when the awakening happens.
Nice.
That's when you really discover who you are and what you stand for. And why do I say these things? Because you said you don't know too much about me. I've been through a lot of shit. I mean, it happens all the time, actually. Stuff gets thrown at me. And whenever I fight it, what I do is I create drama in my life. I create a dramatic narrative, what we call, in pragmatic terms, victim mindset. Whenever I let it flow and accept it and surrender to it and love it, no matter what it is, no matter what emotion arises, I'm able to just be. And that propels me to where I am today.
This is amazing.
Yeah, just some nerdy guy, this nerdy Jewish guy with no degrees, you know, running a podcast, talking to some cool people from around the world, running a mastermind of like-minded guys at different places in their journey who are trying to evolve and elevate themselves to new levels of consciousness and awareness and improve their business and dating lives.
Amazing.
And creating a community because we all need more communities.
For sure, I agree with that.
Yeah, when I moved to Israel, where I changed my life, and I heard a lot of bad things about that country, and then I went there and it broke down a lot of stereotypes that I had, even though no country's perfect. Even when I went to Australia last year, this country that, when I went there, I was like, oh my God, it's perfect. But then when you start to dive deeper into the Aboriginal problems and other problems, you see that even that country is not perfect. Okay. When I went to Israel, one of the things that really changed me was living in communities which were what the country were founded upon, like called like kibbutzim and moshavim. And sometimes they're more socialist, or sometimes they're more cooperative, other times they're more privatized. But that communal living, where it's funny, the guest on the last podcast said, we live in this square box society. And what was my first experience of waking up? Living in a dome or a yurt. Not so square anymore. Getting back to Mother Nature, getting back to, that foundational living that I don't live in right now. I'm in a home. I'm in a little square box right now. Okay. But that experience, I think, really opened me up to what was possible. And what I was learning about at the time was permaculture. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. Permanent agriculture, founded by Bill Mollison, this Australian guy. And we were learning about compost toilets and eating a healthier diet, and using mud to build ovens and stoves and benches, and travel around the country and go for these hikes and live in these communities. And that was an eye-opening experience for me, coming from someone who fought the society and didn't seem to get very far by fighting it. Because the more that I fought, the more they just hit back at me. Okay. They just push you down, where they're like, you don't listen, so you get an F. Okay. Or if it was the more extreme, right, like you drop out, or you're a failure. Okay. Or you don't get to have a good job because you didn't listen, because you didn't fall into line.
Yeah, the universe reflects back, or life reflects back what we're doing with ourselves energetically. So the more we are in a fight, the more we get fights. Life reflects. Yeah. Yeah.
So
nice. Thank you. And yeah, I think that this is so powerful because what's coming up for me is just really the power of acceptance, like true, genuine acceptance. All of this, what I've shared and what many other self-empowerment books and teachings are sharing, can really be, in a way, I feel a lot of it, or most of it, is our permission slip for us to just accept what is, to really fully accept what is, to it, those trainings, even meditation is a permission slip to see that everything is okay, like that we are not in danger when we are perceiving a really dark thought or dark perception. Like, it's just a perception. Everything is still safe. Like, we are still supported. It's safe to accept what is. And then there's a natural grace and transformation and expansion that happens through that. Or yeah. And I'm curious.
For example, what came up for me was the permission, when you do meditation, for example, to be present, to be silent, to be still. When you hire a mentor, super important, right? Number one most important thing, like Kevin Trudeau says, in Your Wish is Your Command, if you want to be a very successful person, when you hire a mentor, what does that help you to do? To feel enough.
Yeah.
Gives you permission to feel enough so that you can take your skills and your being to a higher level. Whatever that may be, whether that's success in your dating life, in your business life, with your body, with your mind, doesn't matter. But having that guide, and you titled yourself as a guide, I think it's a beautiful word, to guide, let someone else guide you along your path. You don't need to do it alone. The permission to not always have to do everything alone. And when you decide consciously that you're ready to surrender to not doing it alone, your potential starts to grow, because the way in which you interact with other people and your students, disciples, mentees, it becomes even more intimate. You serve them on a deeper level.
Yo guys, quick break from the podcast to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Self-Love Army. Go to Self-Love Army on Facebook or findselflove.com for a truly eye-opening experience. Now back to the episode.
So before we jumped on the podcast, we realized that there might be some meat here if we decided to record, because you said something about other coaches having a resistance to surrender to their source. So why don't you take me through that, what kind of experience you're having with other coaches and why they're finding that resistance?
I'm not sure if it's if what's the word? What that resistance exactly is about. I suppose, every coach would have their own story about it, unique story about it. And I'm also not sure that every coach would even recognize that as a resistance. But I said this because what I realized in my own journey is that so in the beginning, I had the first glimpses, right? Like, oh my God, everything is possible. This is so amazing. Let me just, jump into changing the world. If I could just get this message across to everyone, then we're all going to be, awake and enlightened, and everything's going to be epic, and we're going to resolve so much suffering that is now on the planet. But it obviously wasn't as going, because I've, glimpsed that or had this mental, not even just mental understanding, but also like a new in spirit. Now something opened up within me that was now much more clear on, what's the truth and the nature of reality. That did not mean that now all of a sudden my mind, my identity structure, my conditioning was just erased, was just wiped out. It just doesn't work like that, at least for most people, and this includes myself. And what that meant was that more work was to be done. And I noticed that the true, when I say true, I mean a more profound transformation, a transformation that is, sustainable, that really gets to the core of what you perceive as your personality, as that what you are, requires devotion and commitment. It doesn't matter how many books you read, how many coaches you attend, how much you even, meditate, okay, but like ceremonies for these, it doesn't matter. Those are teachers. Those are powerful ways to show you what is possible. But free will is king. You can, if you don't apply your free will in a way that is somehow consistently integrating that on in everyday life, or then it's not going to have that much power. And what I see in a lot of coaches is that I feel they would benefit from accelerating more within, at least for some period in their life, and that can of course be different for everyone, but let's just say for a few months, to just, for most part, drop the outer action and go within to create that depth in your being. And then that's just so much more powerful, because that now in that place, source has more space to be and flow and to operate through a being. And because that's what I feel is the highest. That's what you want. If you want to be of service to someone, you want to help someone's life get better, you want someone to recognize that they are their source. They can, they are their source for whatever they wish to transform or change within their lives, within themselves. And the most powerful way to do it is by opening up to that source being that's within yourself as much as possible, as much as feels relevant for you. You know, of course, there's infinite ways. There's no end to that, you know, so it's, but yeah, in general, I feel that everyone would benefit if, you know, if especially also coaches would value their inner acceleration at least just as much, maybe even more than accelerating outwardly, accelerating in terms of, you know, how much clients have I helped, and how much, you know, people did I get into my program and all of that, because, you know, it's all relative. You
Money
know, how
have
much
I
power.
accumulated? Women have I slept with?
There you go.
Sales have I made? Okay, members in my group. So
Yeah.
let's see if we can dive a little bit deeper. What does it mean to you to humble yourself towards devotion?
Mm. It means to remember myself over and over again that I really don't know. I really don't know. And you know, whenever, that doesn't mean I'm not making decisions, that I'm not taking action, that I'm not taking a stand, that I don't have a message. But it's like there's this habit, you know, to still, like, the mind comes and be like, yeah, but I know, and this is the right thing to do, and now it's, you know, it's this, and now it's this perception, and now it's you know, whatever it is, but just to keep watching it, and to keep not looking for a truth in a perception, but just to stay humble, like just to,
Yeah, like not searching for answers, but just embodying your purpose. Would you say that sounds better?
That sounds good. Yeah, like to remain open, and to not fix yourself into a structure, not to identify yourself with a structure.
Mm-hmm.
Just really maintaining a kind of meditative, you can say, you know, maintaining a meditative state of mind or a way of being. That's what means for me to stay devoted, and just really, and it's even not even just that, it's just, it is that, but it's also more general. It's just the willingness and the choice to be devoted, to choose in each moment what is the highest, what feels the most highest for me, what is my highest expression right now, what action is serving my highest purpose. And
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that some of the guys that may have started listening might have clicked out of the interview. Like, oh, this is just too spiritual for me, too many feelings. And those guys are the ones that needed to hear this most, because those are the guys, okay, and sometimes girls as well, who are overly masculine with their approach, which comes off very logical, very inside the box. And it's just a shame, because if they would embrace their feeling and their heart and their gut and what it's telling them to do, it would open up a lot of things for them. It would open up new creative channels, new ways to be unique and connect with like-minded people and create a new network in that sense. But what I see is, and in some ways it's beautiful as well, right? There are these programs that provide this template of how you should create the perfect body or business or relationship or dating life. And that template may work for some people, sometimes in some situations, but for a lot of people, when they follow that template, somewhere down the line, they aren't experiencing abundance. They aren't experiencing peace. They aren't experiencing joy with their business, their relationship, their body. And then it goes back to searching. It goes back to seeking. It goes back to, oh shit, what did I do wrong? Wait, I need more answers. I need another program. Or I'm just mentally drained and frustrated and I'm going to quit, which maybe that's what they need to do. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've seen that as well, but that is something that is just so clear to me because of the type of people that come and show up and want to get to know me and see the work that I do. And then when we dive into the devotion and the awareness and the spiritual stuff, right? There's a lot of resistance, a lot of resistance, a lot of unwillingness to accept that maybe the path that they were going on was the exact opposite of the path that they needed to take in order to get to a place of true peace and happiness. So, with that being said, let's talk for a second about frustration and feeling stuck in your mind, feeling stuck in your business, feeling stuck in your relationship. Why does this frustration arise? And what would be your advice to men and women that are experiencing it?
Wow. So there are a few things coming up, and this goes along the lines with what you just said. You know, the people who are applying themselves in so many ways and having, you know, great, amazing projects, and they seem to be in flow with the experiential physical world, but something still doesn't fully integrate, doesn't feel
natural.
Yeah, again, something is exactly. And frustration comes in there, and that is because we are not looking at the core belief that we are being inspired from to take on that action, to go into this relationship. Like, for example, let's say, I mean, one of the most core fundamental baseline beliefs that most people have to some level is, I'm not good enough. And so much of our action stems from, I'm not good enough. And so because I fear this perception, because it might be true, or actually I'm fully believing it's true, like, no doubt. I mean, of course, just look at me with all my flaws and everything that I've been through that happened to me, like how I'm not good enough. So I need to do X, Y, and Z, achieve this and that, and be in this kind of relationship to prove to myself, to prove to life, to God, to whoever, my parents, you know, that I'm good enough. And so there's this chasing and running and searching to get something out of experiences, out of outer experience, to get something out of things, to get something out of people. And this is why we get frustrated, and at some point, you know, it drains us. We get depressed, whatever, you know, all kinds of distortions, is because the fundamental belief that we are still believing on, like, I'm not good enough, for example, you know, but it can also be, I'm not free, and so I need all this amount of money in order to feel like I can do whatever I want, and I can just freely move around the world as I want to, and
I'm
not
lonely,
and to be in peace.
I'm lonely and I need a partner to be full.
There you go, exactly. And so even though we accumulate this amount of money and you know, have great friends, it doesn't change this energy. It doesn't change this distorted energy, this belief that is in our system per se. It could lead to, you know, if people maybe have some kind of aha moment, like, oh my God, wait, but for most part, it requires really inner investigation and to really challenge those beliefs and be willing to be really present to them and not be afraid of them, because if we are afraid of it, then it means that on some level we're still believing it's true, and then it's still active, it's still operating, it's still sort of, pushes us into doing something which doesn't lead to satisfaction, because there's nothing out there that can give us something, they can give us something what we already are. Like, you either see that you are already peace and that you are your source for joy, or not.
It's influencing you in a way that is not actually positively contributing to your clarity, to your consciousness, to your awakeness.
Right.
So it's creating a cloud in front of your mind.
Yeah.
And walls, internal walls, external walls, both internal and external, that provide you hurdles to feeling good when you get into the relationship, to connecting with people when you get on a call with them and you want to work with them, to having abundance, whatever that means to you.
Mm-hmm.
Harris, we're probably going to have you back on the podcast at a later point, but we're going to end the interview now, and it's been very meaningful and very powerful. So I just want to ask, are you currently bringing on people to guide them? And if so, how does that work, and how can they reach out to you?
Yes. So currently there is space for me to guide people one-on-one. If they're interested in that, if they feel a calling, then they can reach out for me either through Facebook, my name, which will be here in the description. And otherwise, Alignment Coaching Facebook page, they can also reach out, or through my email address, which we'll also just add in the description. So whatever works for them. And there's also going to be, I'm currently working on a program, online training for a group of people who, for whatever reason, prefer to do this in a group. In a way, it's less intense. It's a 3-month program, but I will post more on that in some moment. It's still a work in progress, but it's just a heads up for people to know that that's coming up as well.
Beautiful. The final question that I ask most of the guests on this podcast is, how would you like to evolve your coaching and your guiding and also your relationships with others over the next 10 to 12 months?
How would I like to evolve?
Yeah, how would you like to evolve?
Can you be more specific?
Do you have any specific, or maybe not so specific, but goals or places where you want to go with your coaching? The kind of people, the amount, or the kind of people that you want to touch, and do you have a dream that you're trying to achieve in the next 10 to 12 months?
Yeah. So two answers on this. One is to continuing deepening my quote unquote personal self-realization, and to expand with the work that I'm doing, to create more programs, to continue guiding beings and continue refining my work as I go, and just staying in in this flow of creativity and inspiration, and letting that guide me. Yeah, so that will be for the next 12 months, and there are some bigger plans for some further future up ahead, but yeah, I'll leave it at this for now.
All right, beautiful. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this spontaneous episode with Harris. How do you say your last name, by the way?
Haji Efendic.
I'm not going to try that right now, but there were some really incredible points that Harris made. So it might be wise to jump back and listen to this one again. Just want to remind you, the only cost of this podcast is to like, comment, and share this episode with a friend. If you felt like you connected, you resonated with the content, and you want to see these episodes continue. And it'll be cool to see you guys in the next episode as well. So until next time, I wish you all the best. Thank you so much, Harris.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Peace.